I still remember the day I first stepped into that battered little workshop, the air thick with dust and broken promises. About 10 years ago, I was brought in to breathe new life into a failing company that had been bleeding money and hope. Before I arrived, they had already cut down from 50 employees to just 3, desperately trying to cling to some semblance of survival. This place specialized in tiny, highly customized parts that demanded the utmost precision, things most people would never notice, but that mattered deeply to the few clients still hanging on. I knew the odds were stacked against us, but I also knew that with the right changes, we could turn it around. My first step was to overhaul everything, cut unnecessary steps, invest in better technology, and rebuild from the ground up. It wasn't easy. There were late nights, tough decisions, and a lot of skepticism. But slowly, the pieces started falling into place. Over 2 years, we grew from near ruin to generating $10 million in revenue, aiming for $100,000 in profit per employee to send back to the parent company. It was a success. We proved that with focus and smart investments, even the most broken businesses could be revived. Among the team was a man I'll call Jack. He was okay, had some skills, but he was far from exceptional. To keep us on track, I had to let him go eventually. I warned Jack he had 2 months to find another job, promising to give him a good review for what he was good at, but not for what he wasn't. I told him that if he maintained solid output in his strengths, I'd be flexible with interviews and references. But if his performance slipped, we'd have to part ways immediately. To his credit, Jack kept his effort steady, although it was a low bar. He managed to find work at a company we partnered with, but he didn't use me as a reference, probably for the best. Years later, I was visiting that partner's site, and to my surprise, Jack was there, greeting me with a smile. We shook hands, shared some quick words, and caught up briefly. Then, out of nowhere, the partner's main contact, a man I'll call Charlie, started praising Jack, saying how lucky I was to have had him because of all the transformative things Jack supposedly did, how he got us out of a mess. The truth was, that mess was mostly my doing, and Jack's role was minimal at best. Charlie even threw in a small, awkward, "well, guy on the hill helped," a nod to me, but it felt hollow. I was stunned. Angry doesn't even begin to cover it. I said nothing at first, only managed a clipped, "well, I'm glad Jack found a good fit." Over the years, I'd see Jack now and then. It was always a perfunctory greeting, a forced smile, nothing genuine. I eventually left that company to pursue new ventures, confident I had set things up for success in my absence. The industry was hit hard by the pandemic and other shocks, but I knew I left the company in good hands. I stayed friendly with the new general manager I'd hired, and I watched from afar as things stabilized. Then, unexpectedly, Jack lost his job, surprising because he'd been there longer than most. When he applied for a prestigious role at my old company, the new general manager reached out to me, asking for the truth about Jack. They hadn't worked together directly, but they wanted to know if the stories Jack told about his transformative impact were genuine. I told them honestly what I knew, that Jack had contributed very little to the turnaround, that most of the real work was mine, and that Jack's claims were exaggerated. In the end, they decided not to hire him. Sometimes, karma does take a while, and it's not always efficient or fair. But I've learned that integrity and truth are the best responses. Because in the end, those who try to take undue credit often find that the truth has a way of catching up with them, even if it's years later.